There is the closing bell, guys, with the S&Ps down about 2 points on the day after having an amazing session yesterday. It's cooling off a bit in today's trade. When we just take a look at this thing from a daily, it put a new all-time high in. However, we're coming off of those highs. Now remember, we came into this week in the SPX expecting 55 points in the options market. One standard deviation to the upside puts us at 4,075. We're just about a point below that level. So you got to ask yourself, are we going to revert back to the mean? Or are we going to get things going? And if we do break off this standard deviation, going to 2 sigma, that would be at 4130. Now, to get there, it's largely going to be led by the Nasdaq. And when we take a look at the Nasdaq today, it's down about 0.1%, so relatively flat on the day. However, it still has about 2% left in the tank to reach all-time highs. We see the S&Ps are making them. However, if technology wants to get going, it's going to be led by what the bonds want to do. And when we take a look at the bonds today, they're up about 60 basis points. So the bonds are in the midst of potentially breaking out here. The bonds start to tick higher. It's going to open up these bond yields. And looking at the 10-year yield today, it was down 3.7%. Sitting at a 1.65%. We're underneath that 1.7% yield. So are we going to see yields fall? And if that's the case, the bonds are going to get rallying here. So with yields falling, it should give these growth name stocks in the Nasdaq a nice lift, especially our big five. And just taking a look at the big five, Apple still has 15% left in the tank to get to those highs. We see Microsoft's breaking out, we see Google's doing it, and even Facebook is breaking out. However, Amazon is lagging with Apple. But when we take a look at the volatility index, VIX futures today were up 80 basis points. I mean, just take a look at the VIX here. Zoom out a bit to 3 years. It's at pre-COVID levels, sitting at an 18 right now in the VIX. When we look at this VVIX, it just closed green on the day, up 6 basis points. So potentially volatility could be putting in a bottom. When we look intraday, you can see right after lunch, it was trend up. So this is going to be a warning sign into tomorrow's tape. And for that, let's take a look at the Russell 2000. And when we take a look at the Russell today, it's down about 0.25%. However, look at this Fibonacci level. I took from the high to the low. The 61% is a very pivotal Fibonacci, and that level's at 2,260. So we closed just a point below that, which could potentially be a red flag. These small caps break down. It's largely going to be because of these financials. And when we take a look at the financials today, they're down about 0.25%. They're potentially double topping here. Now, that could happen if we see these yields continue to rip on open. It could potentially hurt these value stocks, or they could potentially consolidate here and withstand yields falling. However, we'll have to monitor what the financials do, ultimately the bonds overnight. But when we look at our sectors, consumer staples today led the way, up 0.4%, putting in an all-time high. We see software stocks up mildly. However, it was the industrials down, put in a new all-time high in. However, we see energy down 0.25%. We see healthcare down 0.4%. And you just see that XLK technology sector down 0.4%, with the big five down about 0.2%. It's slightly better. Ultimately, tomorrow, it's going to come down to what these S&Ps want to do. Sitting near the upper edge on this week's trade, you can clearly see that in the SPX. Are we going to come back down? We'll have to see what the bonds do, and if the bonds can get going, I think that's enough to give some more momentum for these growth name stocks, especially with the volatility so low. However, it did bid up, which should be a concern heading into tomorrow. But enough of equities and the bond market. Let's check out the dollar index and see what's happening in our commodities. And taking a look at the dollar index today, it's down about 0.33%. So with yields falling, the dollar is weakening. What does that mean for crude oil? Well, crude oil today was up about 1.2% for the most part, shuffling around 60. We look at gold. Gold today was up $14, sitting at $17.43. So with the dollar weakening, gold's trying to get some footing. Can it go higher? It's largely going to be up to what the dollar wants to do. And lastly, we have Bitcoin. Taking a look at Bitcoin today, down about 2%, sitting at 58.7 thousand. I have a line here, and it's the 1 trillion market cap level. That's at 53,500. So give or take, that's going to be a very psychological level, and we're holding that fairly strong. Now I want to show some of my charts to you guys, and just taking a look at this on a 4 hour, you can just see for the most part we can't get above that 59.5 here. We look at it on Binance, we're holding this 57.9. It's going to be a pretty big pivot level. And then we look at the Bitstamp, and we're slightly holding this pitchfork that's around like 58,000. So we're really close to a tipping point. We potentially could see some sharp selling due to stop losses, see these wicks. So if we do see like 56,000, that's a great time to add on those down days. Considering we're holding that 1 trillion market cap, which is a big sign, as long as we're up above that $54,000 level, I think Bitcoin is just gearing up for the next leg higher. There you have it for the stock market breakdown. So seeing the indexes hit the upper edge this week, we're slowing down a bit going into Wednesday. Seeing the VVIX tick up is not a great sign if you're long equities. We'll have to monitor what it does, but ultimately, if these bonds want to get going, it's going to open up the yield, and we're going to see growth name stocks get a nice boost. And if we do see that, it's going to lift just about all of our indexes higher. If you enjoyed the video, it really means a lot if you hit the like button, show some support, and if you're watching me for the first time, I do these breakdowns just about every day. Show some love and hit that subscribe button. It will really make my day if you guys can do that. Any questions or comments for me? Where do you guys see the market going? I'd love to hear from you. But on that note, I will see you in the next one. Take care. Peace!